and welcome back to another video. I am so glad you're here. On this channel I talk about news, controversies, and drama on the bookish side of the internet, and I certainly hope you'll stick around. So a subject that we haven't covered in a while is book signings gone wrong, and while this one is not as much of a train wreck as some of the ones we've seen in the past, it is just not good. Also, I went to my very first book event on August 1st. I had an incredible time, so stay till the end of this video if you want my little recap. So on Saturday, August 8th, an event called Authors in the Steel City took place in Pittsburgh, PA. Kind of. More on that later. Unlike a lot of the events that I've covered, this was actually not the first year it took place. I usually try my best to go back as far as I can when I'm researching for videos, finding out all the history and everything. Couldn't really find much information on previous years, which you'll come to find out is pretty on brand for this event. The earliest post about the 2026 event that I thought was worth noting is really just to give you an intro to the organizer. So this was posted in the Authors in the Steel City Attendees Facebook group. This was August 12th, 2025. Hey, hi, hello. Let's get these author, vendor, and model announcements underway. Who's excited to see who will be joining us this year? I know I'm excited for all the returning faces and new faces that will be joining us. Let's start with me and get that out of the way. For those of you who don't know me, I am Cherie Marie. It might be Sherry. Your event hostess. I'm also an indie author. I write mostly romance, but I am branching out into other genres. I do currently have one YA paranormal published as well. I currently live in North Carolina, but I'm originally from Florida. I've been hosting these events since 2018, and I swear they just keep getting better and better. I can't wait to see everyone next year for what I'm sure is going to be a fun event as always. If you'd like to, you can follow me across all social medias below, and if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments, and then she has listed all of her links. Another thing to note about Cherie is her apparent affinity for AI. Not exactly relevant here, but I like to call it out when I see it, and I want to ask you please not to place any blame on authors and attendees for being part of this event, because again, you'll soon learn how little there was to go off of in determining if they've used AI, and pretty much all of the places I've seen it being used definitively were on her own pages. So do with that, you know, what you will. I first came across this event at all with the following Threads post. The Alicia Jean, I attended Authors in the Steel City today and it was a terrible show. In 6 hours, there were probably 50 people shopping the event. It cost $300 for me to attend this show and there were about 50 authors in attendance. I'm not sure where that $15,000 went, but it certainly was not advertising. And while normally I know sales and attendance cannot be guaranteed, in this instance, tickets were being sold and the showrunner could have let us know attendance would be this low. And someone replies, as a Pittsburgh reader, I had no idea this event was happening, but at least the algo put you on my page. Someone replied, same. And that same person said, I'm a Pittsburgh reader and never even heard of this event. Ditto, would have loved to know about it and would have attended, but all the posts to Threads today about the bad attendance are the first I've heard of it, sadly. And then someone named Karma SCC says, this is so frustrating for me because I personally advertised this multiple places online and drove around posting postcards with the information. Can you give me some examples of where you look or get your signing information from so I know where to post in the future? We did have great ticket sales and have zero idea why attendance was so low. As in Pittsburgh? If so, we live an hour from there, are huge readers and never saw any advertisements. We travel to Pittsburgh almost weekly and never heard anything. Actually, just saw it was Cranberry, which is even closer to us. Someone dropped the ball in advertising. And then this Karma put the exact same post that she did before. Author Kenzie Graves says, I'm sorry you had that experience. A bunch of the VIPs didn't show even though they bought tickets. Only like 4 out of 50 to 75 came. And Emily Bros Wright said, that is a ridiculous attrition rate. Where did you get those numbers from? And Kenzie replies, one of the helpers for the event. I can't remember how many were actually bought. Headache and had conflicting numbers told to me from many people. I saw the leftover VIP bags. There was a lot left. Yikes. I just am skeptical of any event that claims it sold 40 to 50 VIPs and only 4 or 5 showed up. That sounds like inflating sale numbers to shift the blame. And Kenzie says, well, there was a book con today as well. A few of us talked with one of the coordinators about creating a newsletter for attendees and author attendees to help remind people of the event too. I had a great sales day today, but a bunch of people came to my table and said it was because of my posts, newsletter, and meeting me at another event and wanting more books. So just from this little sampling of comments, it's clear that the main reason no one showed up was because no one knew it was even taking place. And I think it's wonderful that Kenzie had a great day. I love that. But it was her newsletter and meeting folks at previous events that gave her a boost and let them know she'd be there and that this event existed. Of course, it's in an author's best interest to do some promotion on their own accounts, but it shouldn't be on them. As the OP mentioned, this was a pretty expensive event to attend. I was able to find the Google form to sign up, which is still live. And we can see that for a full table is $300 and a half table $200. For my research, this is not anything unheard of, but it is definitely on the higher end, particularly for a single day event, which this was, despite what this says. You could also choose to sponsor the event for prices ranging from $50 up to $200, and that would be things like your name on a tote bag, on the name tags, or putting swag in the bag, stuff like that. So to put it lightly, communication was not good. The only place that any information was given was in the authors and vendors Facebook group, which, yes, plenty of people use Facebook, but plenty don't. You can't send an email. In my opinion, any information dispersed on Facebook should be in addition to an email. Even within the group, posts weren't pinned at the top. You'd have to manually search for anything you wanted to find. So on July 15th, someone posted this. Do we have a schedule of events somewhere? I'm looking for a timeline, thanks. Someone said, I am also looking for a schedule. And then we have, did anyone find this? I thought I saw something and now I can no longer find it. This screenshot was taken the day after the event, and this is 2 days ago. So this was the day before the event, I guess. But even July 15th feels like it's getting a little close to be just now publishing that information. Although I suppose I'm not sure what's standard. But as this next post shows, maybe there was no schedule because things were still being planned only a few weeks before. So on July 18th, Cherie says, good morning, everyone. Do I have a couple authors interested in speaking on an author panel? Keep in mind, this is 2.5 weeks or so before. No, I'm lying to you. 3 weeks? About 3 weeks, I guess, before the event, and we're still planning things. Anyways. Couple people replied, I can if it's all on the same day as the signing. Oh, it's not, it's on Friday. I can, I've never done one before. People are kind of volunteering, asking a little more about it. I only left this person Susan's name uncovered because she comes up again later, but I just want to draw your attention to this last comment that says, what is the panel on? And Cherie says, basically just each author's writing journey and their books. So basically a panel on nothing being planned 3 weeks before the event. Cool. And if you're wondering about the fact that this was a Saturday event and this panel was on Friday, it was like an early setup day for the authors. When we eventually did see a schedule, it was only authors setting their stuff up. So from my understanding, readers weren't even invited, making me a bit confused on why a panel was necessary. I think that author's writing journey, etc., is cooler to hear about as a reader than a fellow author because they have their own story. But honestly, I don't really know that that is a great panel topic because it's not really a topic. Anyways, without a doubt, biggest issue with this event was the lack of advertising causing the extremely low turnout. Back in June, Cherie even mentioned tickets were selling slowly. Good morning, everyone. We're just over 2 months out. Who's excited? For the anthology contributing authors, I just sent out invoices for your author copies. Please get them paid ASAP so I can get those ordered. Tickets are selling slow but steady. Let's make sure we are sharing the ticket link with our readers and talking about the event. That's all for now. Can't wait to see all of you. Oh yeah, they did an anthology too, but this is one of the only places I saw it mentioned at all. Let's read a few more threads from authors who attended. So R.L. Davenor said, I attended a book signing today where the table fee was $300. I sold a single book and I'm really, really bummed. Before anyone calls me stupid. No one should be calling anyone stupid. Yes, I initially balked at the fee. But one, I was local, so the table fee was my only expense. Two, authors who had attended past events, because no, this was not a first timer, assured me there had been crowds at previous events and that they had sold decently. I didn't expect a sellout or even close, but I at the very least hoped to make back my table fee. It became apparent I wouldn't within the first hour. The attendees were next to non-existent. I missed a close friend's housewarming party to attend this event. I have a book to finish editing and upload to Amazon by Monday. I brought along my foster kittens because they need to eat every 3 hours, and no, it was not fun at all to have to feed them in the bathroom. Hell, I could have made more money today driving around doing Instacart. All of this to say, I know events can never promise sales. I know so many variables go into how these things turn out. But I won't be attending this event again, and now I have to figure out some other way to have grocery money for the next week. I do sell books on my website. If you're so inclined, everything is 25% off currently. And here are some of the comments. So author Amanda Brick said, whoever told you the event was well attended in previous years lied. Last year was better, but not by much. I regretted paying a table fee as soon as I sent it. I won't make that mistake again. And R.L. Davenor says, that makes a lot more sense, and thank you for the transparency. Yeah, it became clear to me that this was not at all well advertised or organized, to be honest, pretty quickly. But it was too late to take back paying the fee. And Amanda said, I didn't see anything about the event until I specifically went looking. I wasn't even sure it was still happening. The hotel was nice and lunch was good, but not worth $300 if they aren't advertising. I feel like readers are getting bored with this kind of event. Unfortunately, I have a handful already scheduled and paid for next year, but I won't be adding any more to my lineup. There really are so many events just like this one, and while I absolutely love that there are so many options and opportunities for people to attend, it does make it more difficult for organizers to stand out and get people in the door. While this next post wasn't made by Cherie herself, the OP Susan is very involved in the indie community in Pittsburgh. And I don't think she's affiliated necessarily with this event, but she's a longtime attendee and definitely on their team. Hey gang, there's another round of why doesn't Pittsburgh have a book convention and why didn't I know about AITSC sooner, happening today on Threads. Please make noise. Names of 2 volunteers or other people that work there, and I can only do so much. The city just finished a 10-day bookstore crawl. We have book lovers who come out to just about every book-related event, and we have a couple promoters in town now throwing them too. But they need to hear about us if they're going to show up next week. And then Karma, same thing, involved with the company, and we've already seen she's gonna whatever. Yes, everyone please shout it from the rooftops. I've talked to a lot of people, mentioned it in other event pages I attend, etc. I don't have the reach and followers you guys have. Post it in and on everything. Connect with your followers, your community. Let's make this the best AITSC yet. I joined Threads and posted in every post I could find. I'm still learning the platform. This is why, as far as I know, events have like influencers come to the events. They give them free admission, sometimes like extra perks, because then they help promote it. They post about it. Am I wrong? Still new to the whole event thing, but that's my understanding. And yeah, again, I'm a little weird here with which names I covered, because I like when things are in a private Facebook group or cannot be accessed by everyone, I do like to keep things private as far as like names and pictures. But then like the same people are posting on public platforms. So it just, yeah, leave me alone. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. So again, I am not exactly sure what her role is, but I know she works for Cherie, or at least is a very active volunteer, and she has been affiliated with the event since its inception. So she actually posted just once on Threads, and while I'm sure she did her best, almost every single post that she commented on with info about this was months, if not years old, meaning it was probably not all that effective in getting the word out. And I found this by looking at her replies page on her profile, where you can see everything she's replied to. Something else that caused an issue for some people was that the event was not actually in Pittsburgh, but in Cranberry Township, which is about 20 miles away from the city, And yes, I did use PNC Park as my marker for downtown Pittsburgh because it is an absolutely gorgeous ballpark and one of my favorite things in Pittsburgh. So on this map, you can see that from PNC Park to the Marriott where this was hosted, it is 20 miles, approximately 22 minutes en route. And I did take this screenshot at 7:21 a.m. on a Sunday, so I'm guessing traffic was quite light. So I would say this is probably the minimum that it takes. But 20 miles can be far, I don't know. Anyways, Amy K. Poetry said, so sad to hear about poor turnout for authors in the Steel City today. Did the organizer do any advertising for this? Because I'm a Pittsburgh book girly and little eyeballs. I saw a couple posts from 2 or 3 authors about it, but that was it. From the organizers, crickets. And I'm not even gonna get on my hobby horse about how Cranberry isn't in the Steel City, nor is Monroeville, home of Steel City Con. Toad and Thimble said, I live in Pittsburgh and this didn't cross my radar at all. If it was in Cranberry though, that's like 40 minutes from most of Pittsburgh and not accessible via public transit. Lemon Pickle Bee said, wait, this event was in Cranberry and they called it Steel City? It's not even the same county, LMAO. Reading with a Side of Life said, Pittsburgh is our big city and I had just heard of it 2 weeks ago. Crazy to me there wasn't more info put out. Okay, now I know it's common to say like, oh, you're from a city when you're actually from a nearby suburb, but not everyone can easily access a suburban event, so it can be frustrating to hear about an event in your city that isn't actually in your city. Ask me how I know. I live in Philadelphia, in the city, and I get so bummed when I hear about cool events that claim to be in Philly but are actually out in the burbs. I don't have a car. I live in the city. I have no need for a car. And while a lot of places can be accessed by public transit, even more places can't be. So I understand this frustration all too well. Here's someone who didn't attend but was frustrated nonetheless. Tatted Trash Reader said, after the debacle of yesterday's event, Pittsburgh deserves so much better in terms of book events. Many of the events aren't indie friendly and unprofessional people keep putting on these events outside of the city and people don't want that. Cranberry Township and Monroeville do not count as Pittsburgh, and maybe that's my massive hot take. Yeah, maybe mine's a hot take too, I don't know. The lack of awareness for other events happening and $300 author table, and then a crying face. Blythe Books Pittsburgh said we should do something about this. If I'm not mistaken, this is a pretty popular bookstore and they are very active and seem to be really cool. Maybe they want to get something going. So, okay, yes, that's right. Authors in the Steel City was competing with Steel City Con, which, while not expressly a book event, there's a lot of overlap between those groups of attendees or potential attendees. And I fully understand that events are planned and booked months, if not years in advance. However, right on the Instagram for Steel City Comic Con, you can see that they host this event every April, August, and December. I didn't scroll all the way back on their Instagram to see when the event began, but I scrolled back to 2022. All that to say, even if the specific exact date wasn't published yet, it would have been beneficial to both Cherie and potential attendees if she had reached out to make sure her event wasn't going to be on the same weekend. It just seems like something that would be wise. So here are a few more comments. Molly's Book List said, I don't think they did any of their own advertising this year. I never attended, but I've been in the Facebook group for a few years. There wasn't much engagement in the group. Plus, the organizers allowed AI content, which was a red flag for me. Yeah, the Attendee Facebook group is actually public, so obviously I did some lurking myself, and there is not much in the way of information over there. Jacqueline's Booknick said, I showed up later in the afternoon. I saw some of the author posts, since it was very close to my house, and I was so sad to see how empty it was. Our local authors deserve so much better. And then Jacqueline said, I was so shocked, honestly. I got there around 3 o'clock-ish, and at first thought maybe everyone came in early, but a few of the authors mentioned how dead it was all day. So over in the author/vendor Facebook group, the inevitable gaslighting started straight away. So this post is not from Cherie, but from another organizer. So, good morning all. Who is sick of me yet? Just FYI, this will be a long post. If you don't want to stay, I will put a TLDR in the comments. Firstly, I want to say a huge thank you to everyone that showed up, signed up, came out to support, volunteer, assist, be a cheerleader, whatever your role was, it is greatly appreciated. There are too many to name, but I thank you. I also want to give a huge shout out to Cherie, who has trusted me from the beginning, and I couldn't be more blessed. I have been attending this event from the beginning, and while it doesn't hit the numbers of some of the bigger events, what I have seen come from this event is a great group of authors, vendors, and readers that come together to share stories, support, network, and get to know each other's worlds a little better. While we would love to be on par with some of the bigger events, our event is more intimate, and personally, I am okay with that aspect. I have a unique perspective on these events by having been a part of a few huge and a couple small events both behind the scenes and as an attendee/reader. What I can say without a doubt is that all events have issues, whether big or small, bumps in the road, unanswered questions, attendance/sales problems, advertising issues. It is universal and not exclusive to the size or host of the event. While I will not speak for Cherie, I do have some things to say about what I have noticed in the last few days. Everyone is entitled to their own opinions and have seen a lot of talk online in the last 24 hours, and I want to address some of it. While I won't name names of those being the most toxic, a few already left this group and so won't see this anyways. I will say that we will not tolerate bullying, misinformation, or slander aimed at the event, the host, or any aspect pertaining to any of it. I really wish people would stop using the word slander without understanding what that means. Slander is spoken, libel is written or recorded in some way, as I recently learned thanks to some wonderful subscribers. But actually, this is neither of those, because sharing negative opinions on your own experience does not mean it's slander or libel, let alone bullying. That is not who we are, what we do, or condone anyone else being a part of it. Everyone is entitled to have their own opinions, as I said, but I will stand up for not only myself, but other people to correct misinformation that is being spread to the public for eyes to see that have no experience with our event, the organizers, the authors, or readers. Also, owning and posting your own experience does not diminish or excuse someone else in their own experience. We can all be the same place and have vastly different opinions, I wish she proofread this, on the experience and what we gained from it. So this person says everyone's entitled to their own opinions, but their actions say otherwise, because I'm personally really unsure what misinformation is being referred to here, because pretty much all I've read has easily been corroborated, and that includes by people who did have a good experience. Even they admit that attendance was poor and promotion could have been much better. Anyway, we strive each event to learn a little more, get a little better, reach a broader audience. This year we had almost our highest number of ticket sales. While we absolutely cannot control attendance, the readers that paid the highest ticketed tiers to show up, enter early, dine with us, and more, for whatever reason, did not show up. The general admission ticketed readers did not show up. Throughout the day, I did find out why a few Ultimate/VIP didn't show, but the rest, I don't know the answers. It is baffling. I wish I could find out why over people registered for tickets but failed to show up. I just don't see how this is possible. I also feel a lot of secondhand embarrassment that this was like, what did she say, almost the highest number of tickets sold, and yet the attendance was this bad. The other option is perhaps the numbers were exaggerated earlier on. It is true that they can't control how many people show up. However, they can control how wide their reach is by actually putting effort into promotion. From a money aspect, while personally I can't understand spending money on tickets in this economy and then not utilizing that ticket, I also can't contact these people to find out why. Did something happen? Did they simply forget? Did something else get scheduled for the same day? I would love answers. I, of course, did not spend money on a table, but I did spend a lot of my own money on advertising, things like printing, event booklet and flyers, seating charts, labels, lanyards. I stayed at the hotel even though I live 25 minutes away. I took off work and will not be paid for missing those days/time. But I would do it all again for this event. That is what it means to me. That struggle is worth the potential that this event can provide. This entire paragraph rubs me the wrong way. While I'm happy to see her admitting flat out that she didn't pay for her table, maybe there's a little more at stake for others. For example, $300. And as far as spending her own money on advertising, that's not something a vendor or author should have to do. With a table fee this high, the organizers need to allot some money for advertising. She also mentioned staying at the hotel even though she lives 25 minutes away, like a gotcha that she spent her own money. It just feels foolish to me, but I know, when you are part of the team hosting the event, it's much easier just to stay at the venue, so whatever, still her choice. And then she goes on to say that she took the day off of work and won't be paid. Again, ma'am, that is your choice. Others probably also took off work, except they're out an additional $300 because they did in fact pay for their tables. As far as the event, we tried some new things, and while I won't say things can never be improved upon because they always can, even the events that have been running for decades make tweaks and changes every time to improve upon the model that they're already finding successful or not as successful as it could be. Did all those new things run smoothly? Not really. But we learn, we grow, we adapt, get input, and suggestions to make it better for the future. What I heard was a disaster, when I looked with my own eyes, looked promising and interactive. I can say that I spoke to many of you, not as many as I wanted to, but I got good suggestions and feedback, not only about this event, but for the future. Positive one-on-ones with respect and dialogue. Not everyone is going to have the same experience at any event. Not every event is going to have the same experience as another. But if we start taking toxicity into each aspect of our lives, then nothing will be successful. I can only hope going forward we can find a way to benefit not only this group, the authors, the coordinators, the volunteers, the assistants, and the readers. This is hard to read. Working together, successes or failures, is the only way that we can all truly move forward, better ourselves, enrich our lives, and be genuinely happier people. And listen, I am all for those things. But what she fails to recognize is that this is a business. It's not the job of the customer, in this case, the authors and vendors, to make their event better. I think being open to conversations where people can share their thoughts is wonderful. But no one who attended or had a table should feel like it's their job to improve the event, in my opinion. As I said, I want to thank you. Whether I got to spend a moment with you or not, everyone from start to finish is a part of this event. And I love it, as I said. Each event has highs, lows, ups, downs, positives, negatives. Being in Western PA, this is personal for me. I want it to succeed. I want everyone that sets foot through the door to sell their books, their products, find a new author to love, tell their friends, and I will never stop trying to make that happen. Anyone who has any comments or feedback, positive or negative, please feel free to message me. I will ask that you be respectful in both. Disrespect will not produce a positive result with me. I obviously don't have 100% of the answers, but I will try to answer to the best of my ability or find an answer for you. I have talked enough about the contents of this post, so let's just head to the comments. So this person, Pink, says, one thing that might help is sharing a breakdown of where all the funds from the table fees went, and or providing the marketing mix. What influencers were contacted? When were media outlets contacted? Where was the press release sent, etc.? The OP said, I'm still matching pen names to real names. Can you refresh my memory as to your author name? To answer this, for my perspective, I don't handle the books for this event, so I don't have a breakdown of costs. However, in my experience for other events, a huge chunk goes to hotel/rental space, room charges. All rooms in block typically have to be paid for, used or unused. Also, in regards to the hotel, they make their contract to people staying at the event hotel. When guests book off-site, to save money most times, it actually adds to the overall cost of the event. Any food provided, i.e. lunch or dinner, any bartending or servers needed, i.e. after parties, plus gratuity for staff. I'm sure I'm missing something, but that's off the top of my head. Again, I have no knowledge of the financial aspect that this event occurs. This is just gleaned from previous events I've been a part of. She can't find out and report back later. She's literally just guessing. And am I crazy thinking these are things that should be accounted for earlier on? Are they expecting that many people to travel in for the event that a room block is even necessary? Maybe it has something to do with the hotel, but there's plenty of venues that you don't need to do that for. So anyways, this yellow person chimes in. My guess is a lot went to the space/table/chairs and that amazing over-the-top lunch. The food was great, and it's nice not to have to lug a table and chairs to events. Everything is expensive now for a lot of people. I will say this for them, I have heard that the lunch provided was exceptional, especially for like hotel food. It was like an actual meal that included a nice salad, coleslaw, and then like a build your own slider thing. So there's a positive. I like this event because it's not far from my house and seems silly to not go to it. But in all businesses, it takes everyone involved to spread the word. Life always gets in the way for some. It's always nice to meet new people and to see old friends. And then they start talking about like a personal interaction they had. So not really relevant for us, but yeah. So again, I think it's definitely in the best interest of authors to do some of their own promotion, but I don't think it should be what makes or breaks an event. When you are paying so much to have a table, the bulk of that needs to be done for you. This purple person says, was the attendance level confusing and disappointing? Yes. Did I meet some cool new authors and have lovely conversation and engaged with new readers? Also yes. Weird stuff happens beyond con control, but for what the con could control, oh my gosh, so many C words. It was a well-run show. The catered lunch was nice, which is a rarity for shows to have them feeding attending authors / vendors. I second having a transparency of the table fees and marketing breakdowns, because maybe stuff can be tweaked / fixed to make the table fees lower for a show this size, and marketing can be planned / implemented on a longer timeline. Overall, a chill first time for me with this show and will consider participating in a future year. And then adds, one thing my husband pointed out was the location being kind of far from the heart of Pittsburgh. Has this event always been held in Cranberry? Would a location change help engagement? And then the OP says, thank you for your feedback. My notebook is filling quickly and it was great to meet you. Loved your ears. So when we have had an event in Pittsburgh, using Pittsburgh too gets more visibility as suburbs are not as well known, but it is always mentioned as being in the Steel City or outside of Pittsburgh. We have either been at this Marriott or one time in Harmarville, 2024, when our new Monroeville location closed unexpectedly right before the event. We have looked at locations in downtown Pittsburgh and continue to do so each event, but with prime spaces comes prime prices. There was a Station Square location that was perfect size-wise but offered zero parking. It's a dual-edged sword for sure, trying to keep everyone happy. To that end, I welcome input on locations you and anyone may know of. I've lived here my whole life, but I haven't been everywhere in the city. I won't even begin to claim I know every nook and cranny. Teamwork makes the dream work, as they say. Now I know she said that she didn't have access to the financial information, but where is Cherie to answer those questions? I think in a situation where it seems pretty clear that money was mismanaged, which led to a poorly attended event, people have a right to know where their money went. And I'm sure some people will disagree with me, but that's how I'm feeling about it. And the defensiveness did not stop at Facebook. It carried on over to Threads as well. So West of Mars says, hey Pittsburgh friends, those of you who came out to Authors in the Steel City today rocked. Thank you for picking up Sir Ginger and Maybe the Bird Will Rise and all the other books in the Tales from the Sheep Farm series. I'm so glad you stopped at my table to say hi. I love this city and its readers. I'm seeing a lot of criticism about today's event. I had a great sales day. But know what I heard a lot of? People overspent at the book crawl and didn't have the budget for a signing like this. I also know people were at Comic-Con and the economy sucks. So I'm grateful for, I'm guessing everyone who turned out and visited and said they came out to meet me specifically. So in addition to Steel City Con, this event was scheduled for 2 weeks after the Great Pittsburgh Book Crawl ended, which is a week-long event promoting indie bookstores in the area. That's just poor planning in my opinion. And if you insist on hosting an event right around the same time as other bigger events, you better be promoting the shit out of it if you want it to be a success. But anyway, not everyone had a low sales day, which is lovely. Bookish Worker Bee said, I'm glad you had a good day. I will say that the only way I knew about it was from authors like yourself. Otherwise, I didn't see this promoted anywhere in the book community. So I understand the low turnout frustration that some authors had. And the OP said, I understand it and share it too. This is one reason why I keep saying we all need to work together in the city's literary scene to support each other, even when it seems we are at odds. And then Kenzie said, this was my second best event sales day ever. Many of the people who came to my table said it was because of seeing me at another event and mentioned this one, my newsletter, and me posting about it all over my socials. Me talking the event up really helped, so I'm going to be making sure people know when and where I will be. And then the OP said, hey, funny how that works. Talk about where you're going to be. People get interested in you and your books. Shocking. Okay. Author Aaron Scher says, I've seen a couple people saying the show was not great. Did you do okay? And they say, I did very, very well, exceeded my minimum goal, and had a lot of great interactions with readers, many of whom saw me talking the show up. Some authors were saying that they have been seeing bigger signings like this have fewer attendees and lower sales. Seems to be a trend. Glad it went well for you. It definitely does seem to be a trend, as I touched on before. I would say it has a lot to do with everyone thinking they can be an event planner and like make some quick cash by hosting their own event. I think there are far more than there were even a few years ago, and the combination of the economy and people hearing about bad experiences makes them less likely to buy tickets. And speaking of buying tickets, I went as a reader because I heard about it from an author here a couple weeks ago. They didn't even have a sign inside the hotel entrance to say it was going on. We had to find it. Then our free general admission tickets turned out into only free if we brought school supplies, which I never saw in Eventbrite, but I could have missed it. We had to pay. The room was pretty empty, and all the authors were awesome and had great setups. Now I feel bad. I had no idea it had been that dead all day. And Callie284 said, ask for the marketing plan and budget, guessing it was nil. I had, and she didn't have one, so I had dropped out. Others are asking for the budget, and the organizer is screaming that they're bullying her. So unfortunately, the Eventbrite page won't show me if it did in fact talk about school supplies because the event is past. But this is not the only person who mentioned being a little blindsided. Author K.A. Bauer said, this is not the turnout I expected either. The fact that this was almost 2 years of planning as well, and I was all for blaming the economy until one of the volunteers/organizers chased someone down who came in to tell them they owed $10 to come in. Like, we had maybe 40 people attend all day, and you're gonna hunt down a single person for an entry fee? I think the bait and switch of free admission to $10 at the door hurt, because we didn't see how often people turned away. Wait, admission wasn't free at the door like it was supposed to be? If you got your ticket in advance, it was, but apparently it switched to a $10 entry fee at the door. I didn't know this either until that happened at like 3 p.m. Now, I can't say with any certainty what the situation was there, but honestly, that's the problem. This was not communicated well if so many people are confused about whether the tickets are free or not, whether they needed to bring school supplies, etc. I'm going to wrap this up. I want to read one more thread. Alexandra Juniper said, as someone who worked in event planning and marketing for 10 plus years, I have to say one of the most frustrating things was constantly running into people who thought my job was easy and they could do it because they planned a party one time. I feel like so many of these events fail because the people in charge don't actually understand what it takes, not because of lack of audience. And then Tatted Trash Reader said, I'm working on planning one now with a business partner who plans events often. I've done a bit myself for internal corporate events and I know how tough it is, especially the marketing and advertising side. Y'all's jobs are not easy. Anyone saying otherwise is loudly wrong. We have seen it over and over again. People not respecting how much work it is to actually put on a great event. Yes, the economy is bad, but for attendees, this was either free or at most $10 for a general admission ticket. So even if people weren't there spending a lot of money, there isn't really an obvious reason why only 50 people would have shown up, unless, that is, they didn't know about it. Is this the worst event I've talked about? Absolutely not, but that doesn't make it okay. And for it to be a repeat event is crazy to me. Generally, I feel like when we see this type of shit show, it's someone who has never planned anything bigger than like a birthday party. So this actually is so strange. And I also wish we could banish the words toxic and bullying when we're discussing sharing negative opinions because they are overused and in no way describe what has been said by folks in this case. From everything I've seen, people have been appropriately upset. No one is coming for Cherie's head. They aren't even asking for any kind of refund. They're simply sharing what they feel, and that's a right we should all have. Not that it matters much at this point, but a few authors who have spoken out have been informed that they're no longer welcome at Cherie's events and have been removed from the Facebook group, which, like, I don't think they'd want to attend another one anyways, but it is telling that this is their solution. So now, without seeming like I'm rubbing it in anyone's faces, I want to talk about my experience at my very first book event. It was Haunt the Readers in Mount Joy, Pennsylvania on August 1st, and it was an absolute blast. I went with my best friend. It was a 2-day event, but we only went on the second day. So now I'm going to throw it back to my early booktube days and share my little haul. So first, my current read, Reconstructing Amelia by Kimberly McCreight. I am very much enjoying this so far, and yes, I got it signed. This is so cool. And here is what the little badges looked like. I was using it as a bookmark, but there's that. And then I got This Girl's a Killer by Emma C. Wells, which I've actually already finished and I really enjoyed. If you like those books that are like, the protagonist is kind of like the bad guy or like a vigilante sort of movement, I thought it was really a fun book. And then all the others I haven't read yet. So I got Cross My Heart, Hope You Die by Mallory Arnold. I got The Caretaker by Marcus Kluwer. I don't know how to say his name. I probably should have looked it up before I started filming, but anyways, I really loved his book, We Used to Live Here, so I'm excited to read this. I got The Woman in White by Sarah Pekkanen. The Better Mother by Jennifer Vanderkloot. And I got, this is a heavy book, Music to Sacrifice Virgins To by Christopher Triana. And lastly, I got The Body by Bethany C. Morrow. Very cool. And I'm so excited to read literally all of these. I've been reading nothing but books that I got there, obviously, since I got back, whatever, a week ago. So several authors that were in attendance were ones that I have actually read and loved, and like books I already owned. So my dumbass didn't feel like bringing them from home to be signed. Lesson learned, next year I will be bringing everything that I have from certain authors because that's so cool. They did give out these really cool little autograph books, so I was able to like get signatures. Look at how cute. I just love that. There's like really neat little pictures, illustrations on every page, and we told the authors, yeah, pick whatever page you want to sign on. Really cool. I really enjoyed that little thing. But yeah, I want my book signed. I don't know what I was thinking. The event itself was incredibly well organized. All of the staff and the volunteers were absolutely lovely. The venue was awesome. It was in this really old brewery, and like, I don't personally believe in ghosts, but if they're real, this place is definitely haunted. Because I was there on the second day, it was a little quieter, and I got to spend a lot of time chatting with a few authors. Not even about books, just hanging out and talking. I talked with Danielle Valentine for a while, talked to Emma C. Wells, who wrote that book over there. Danielle Valentine is one that I had read her books but didn't bring any. It was such a fun and like surreal experience to kind of be having regular conversations with authors whose books I have read and like really, really enjoyed. And a huge shout out to the amazing Bethany C. Morrow, who is actually a subscriber of mine. We had the coolest chat about bookish trauma, among other things. Like, we chatted probably for 30 minutes, like in 2 sections, but like we probably did. It was great. It was a crazy feeling to be recognized at all, let alone by a big author. She saw me from like a little bit away and said, I didn't know you'd be here, or something like that. And I'm like looking around like, she can't be talking to me, but she was talking to me. It was so crazy and so cool. I will put a picture over here. And yeah, I've been recognized like by someone in public maybe like 4 times. It's wild every time though. And this was even crazier because it's like someone I was like, but I know you. I also ended up spending a while chatting with the event organizer, Tiffany. She was an absolute delight. I had the most amazing time. And next year, I am planning on VIP tickets going for the entire event. If you are in southeastern central PA or like anywhere kind of within traveling distance, I highly recommend this event for thriller and horror lovers. I Cannot wait to go back. So I am going to end today's video there. In lieu of an indie author feature, I'm going to put links to order books from authors who attended Authors in the Steel City. And if you're looking for something new to read, check them out, show some support. I would know that they would appreciate it. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, I'd love it if you would. Check out my Discord if you'd like to support me over there. Thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!